Hello. I just wanted to come up with the weirdest way to say hello to everybody after that incredible countdown by James. James is he's really knocking out the park with all of these graphics, isn't he? How is everybody? I hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to Small Screen Live. We've got lots of stuff to talk to you guys about tonight. We've got all sorts of stuff. Got Marvel stuff. We've got DC stuff, Lobo stuff, Kevin Feige stuff, because he's been talking. Superman stuff as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So I hope you guys are all doing very well in the chat, and everybody that's watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch as well. We're on Twitch as well. And before we start the show, let's just go through. We've got one or two people to say hello to. We've got Chrysler in the chat. We've got Roberta as well saying hello. And hello to you, Roberta. I hope you're doing very, very well. We've also got, who have we got? We've got Danzig saying hello to everybody. How you doing, Danzig? Danzig 1979. We've got someone called My Name Is Not Important. Well, I mean, that's cool. Not everybody's name is important, I suppose. Who else have we got? We've got Shaun Dickinson saying hello to everybody in the chat as well. Stay lifted, Barry. Stay lifted, Barry. That could be a reference to Barry Allen, the Flash. We might be talking a little bit about the Flash as well. Today on the show,
that's Barry from Stay Lifted Productions.
Oh, okay, all right.
And My Name Is Not Important is he's in our Discord, and he's always the first to comment on the videos.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you can tell who runs all the social media channels, can't you? So we will bring in Shaun in a minute with, of course, James. James, the producer, the guy behind the scenes at Small Screen, the one that's running the show, really. Should we bring everybody in? Is it about time? And there's Shaun.
How you doing, hi. Shaun? I didn't expect to see you today.
No, we've somehow managed to get in, like, log into your computer and get your account, the camera weren't running and the microphone running. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing very well.
Doing very well. We were talking before the show, and I want everybody to know we're all really impressed with Edward's haircut, because it is actually a nice haircut, and he actually can get a haircut. So,
well, thank you very much. It's very kind. I never want to bring it up, because every time I get a haircut, James is always like, "Why did you get a haircut? You shouldn't get a haircut. You can actually grow your hair long. Why are you cutting it? It's much easier. It's just so much easier.
You can do the Adam Driver thing and cover your ears, but
exactly.
Cover your earphones with it."
His Star Wars headphones always reminds me of that guy in Star Wars.
That's what they're like. That's the headphones.
See, for me, it reminds me of the guy from The Prisoner. Who was never talked to, was just always watching.
I do wonder whether they are actually modeled after the guy in Star Wars, because they do look a lot like that guy's headphones. Yeah, they're Apple. They're a nice Christmas present. Very nice Christmas present.
Very nice.
Expensive headphones. So we've got loads of stuff to talk about, but what was the first thing on the list, I think, that I wanted to talk to you about, actually, was would start off with Blade. So I'm not sure if you saw, there was an exclusive article on Small Screen. We have occasional exclusives, little bits of information that we're inadvertently told by people, and they automatically get a bit like, "Oh, why did you post that?" Just about actually Blade being in a much better position than it was a couple months ago. I was told that it was going to be the bloodiest and most violent Marvel movie ever made. Now, that's not very hard to do, because there haven't been that many violent and, I suppose, violent. Yes, there's a lot of fighting in them, but not necessarily bloody. I wanted to get your thoughts a little bit on the character of Blade and how important, if important, he is at all for the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and how you think they might be able to do this character justice in the MCU.
There's a couple of things with it. First of all, I just recently, within the past couple of months, I read the Tomb of Dracula's where Blade was introduced, which somehow I'd missed Tomb of Dracula when it was first happening. Of course, it was before I was born. But I think Blade is hugely important to the future of the Marvel universe, cinematic universe, because it's a character that a lot of people know, but they don't really. I don't know that the general public connects that to Marvel now. And those of us who are ancient remember when Blade came out and was like, oh, this is a new kind of comic book movie that we haven't seen before. And it was kind of faithful to the source material, at least the first one was. And it was dark and violent, and but it's not like, we always talk about.
I saw it in the theater 8 times.
Of course he did.
But does that mean you like it, or does that mean you had a chip on your shoulder about it? That's what I'm
I
asking.
loved it. I was driving out of the theater, and I thought I saw people that had watched it in the same theater. So I rolled down the window. I'm like, hey, did you see Blade? Did you see Blade? Wasn't it awesome? It was so good. And then I went back and saw it the next night. I love that film.
Yeah, I remember watching it and going, wow, this is actually a good movie that respects the source material but isn't slavish to it. So I think it's a new sort of chapter, and a good chapter for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And like we were talking about a little just a couple of minutes ago, it's another clear R-rated property. And so, I think they have to do stuff like that.
Yeah. And for me, I'm a lot like James in the sense that first Blade movie was, I think, I watched it when I was far too young to watch that first Blade movie. I'm going to be honest. I remember getting it. I got it as back in the days when you could rent DVDs. So there's the French version of Blockbuster, which of course doesn't exist anymore, called Video Future. And I remember getting very excited renting that DVD and being just shocked by the very beginning of that movie. It's the kind of the blood rave scene. And you mentioned something which was quite interesting, how that the version kind of, the version that we saw stayed true to the comic books, but also not so much, in the sense that they cast Wesley Snipes as Blade, who isn't really the Blade from the comic books. I don't think there's an element of that. There's the violence, of course, but he's quite goofy in certain scenes in the original Blade movie. There's that whole thing where he does the thumbs up when he lights one of the vampires on fire, and then he does a bit where he does a thumbs up to almost to the camera. And there are some very goofy moments in that film. And I suppose the some of the visual effects haven't aged incredibly well, but it's still one of those comic book movies that I think a lot of people keep on coming back to, because there hasn't been anything that's been made that's quite like that. Like the Deadpool films are kind of gory and violent and bloody, but the tone's very different. Maybe Logan was the one that came closest to it, but that's quite a lot. That's a bit more serious. And then the sequels were pretty bad. The Blade sequels were pretty poor.
Some motherfuckers always trying to skate up.
Stay lifted is Blade 3 is the best comic book movie of all time.
I don't agree with that. Blade Trinity, I think, is a hot mess of a movie, and that's Blade Trinity is a good example of taxation evasion. I like that.
You just do the whole movie, and at the end, 2 Treasury agents show up and put Blade in cuffs and take him away.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. And here we go. Danzig saying, I don't see Marvel going that hard as the original film, which is a shame and worrying for other darker MCU content like Punisher. Well, one of the things I do wonder about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is whether they are going to break their one rule, which is don't make R-rated movies. We already know they're making an R-rated Deadpool, but they kind of got themselves in that position by buying 20th Century Studios. And it's like, we kind of have to make this movie now. But it would be, I suppose there is an argument to say it would be a bit weird for the future of the MCU, where we have like this one property which is super dark. I know you don't like the word dark, but it's quite it's about vampires.
I'll go for
how was he?
I'll go for dark when they do the Dark Claw movie.
Yeah. But like, how would they manage to mesh the Blade character with the other characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? It might not work.
Well, why does it have to be like a clear mesh? Why can't it be there's these things and then there's that thing which is related to this, but it's not, completely a part of this? And there's an idea that, it's kind of the same thing that was going on with DC when the Dark Knight Returns came out, where like they did this thing. It was obviously a more adult graphic novel. And then they kind of caught themselves like, oh, what are we going to do more of these? We're selling the comics. I don't, and that was literally, I think, what Dick Giordano was saying in The Office at that time. And and Jeanette is going, this stuff sells. We need to think about this. And they're like, oh, but we do stuff for kids, and we don't change things. And then they immediately do Elseworlds, where they change an Elseworld story changes everything, but comes right back to where it was at the beginning anyway. But why can't you have those two separate things going parallel paths? I think different audiences. It's also your audience grows up with you after a certain while.
Yeah,
don't they? Aren't you hoping?
Yeah,
I would be hoping for that.
This is Disney though, so I think like with Blade, it could be an R-rated film. But then when he appears in other MCU movies, it'll just be like when he's slicing off a head or whatever, it'll be off camera or won't be as gory, kind of like when Deadpool will show up, he'll break the fourth wall a bit, but I don't think he's going to swear except in his own film.
But isn't that what we were all saying about Wolverine too, when they started the X-Men movies? Because we all knew him from like the Savage Land thing where he's killing people left and right. And even though some of it's off screen, it might be clear, but he did kill quite a few scenes where he's like literally puts the claws through somebody's chest, aren't there?
Yeah,
they're in the later movies though, aren't they?
But in the comics, I'm talking about in the source material. But yeah, I don't see why you can't have those both going simultaneously. I think they need. As I've said endlessly, they need to shake things up, because even though they say there isn't a formula, it sure feels like one.
Yeah.
They're better, but these sort of feel like they're starting to feel like the Disney wild animal adventure movies of the 70s and the 80s, where like we're going to do that same movie, but with a cougar this time.
Yeah. There's definitely an element of that. Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, would you say that Werewolf by Night is like that? I think that was a good introduction to the supernatural and setting up the world for Blade to come in.
Yeah, but they were trying to do Universal horror films from the 40s, so that's when the Hayes office was in place. So I don't think they were trying to push that too much. But it is a nice thing to say that we have the Marvel universe and this stuff is going on in it as well.
Yeah, I think that was the one thing that gave me a bit of hope, actually, because there is that scene. There's that one scene, I know it's all in black and white in Werewolf by Night, where you literally see blood spatter on the camera and stuff, but it's black, so it doesn't matter as much, I suppose, is the way they're thinking about it. But I do wonder whether one of the reasons why this project was in so much kind of disarray, literally the director, Bassam Tariq, left because of creative differences, which is a phrase that a lot of directors are using nowadays to describe working with Marvel.
That was what Edgar Wallace said too, wasn't it?
Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish. They both left Antman. Oh god, I like the Ant-Man movie, but imagine how his movie would have been like. Edgar Wright is one of my cinematic heroes. I love the guy. I think he's.
I'm with you 100% on that.
That's when we drifted off into the darkest timeline.
Yeah, literally it was. And I just still remember Joe Cornish, who wrote the first draft of the script. So he's the guy that directed Attack the Block, literally was the one that found John Boyega, gave us John Boyega. But he is quite a famous podcaster in the UK. And someone was asking him, what was the difference between the movie that you wanted to make and the movie that was released? He said, well, my movie would have had a lot more Thomas the Tank Engine in it. It's just like he's like, the Americans were quite puzzled when I brought Thomas the Tank Engine into. They're like, who? It's like, you've not heard of Ringo Starr? You know, he did the narration. But
I was just going to point that out, James. You know, Midnight Suns will be a juggling act. Yeah.
But and now, so they've got this new director in. He's the guy that did Lovecraft Country. Jan, I can't remember his last name. Blanking on his last name, but he was the executive producer of Lovecraft Country, which is an incredible show. If you like Jonathan Majors, you should watch that show. He's in that and he's brilliant in it. And he's someone that if you watch that show, you immediately know that it might be a very good fit, because he's someone that really understands how to bring creatures to life, make something really quite frightening, but also there's an undertone of humor behind it. And Lovecraft Country is a very interesting show, which if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. It was an HBO show. And I do wonder, yeah, it's really good. I do wonder whether one of the problems they just couldn't crack the script. And this was something that was reported on a while ago, was that apparently there's only like one action scene in the original script, and it was quite dull and kind of didn't really have this is reports from a guy called Jeff Snyder, who is a former Collider journalist, but he was being told that the script, that they were kind of doing a juggling act between it being trying to be violent, show no blood, but also it just ended up being really boring.
This is Blade, so they were they trying to like cleave it and make sure they get a PG-13?
They were trying to. Apparently, that's what he was saying, was that they were trying to kind of really water it down, and in the end, I think
green blood. That's all you have to do.
Yeah,
you have all the green blood you want.
They're all robots. They're all robot vampires.
Well, one of the things
Army
I do
of the
wonder,
Dead, where they're robot zombies.
Yeah,
are they?
They could be one of the things.
Out of the blue in the casino. Out of the blue in the casino, there's a zombie, and all of a sudden he's like a robot underneath.
Yeah,
it's
a Zack Snyder movie, so we know we get the 10 minutes, and I'm.
Yeah, that was something character that I was like, why did he even add that in? But I think that's for the future movies. I think that's what he was saying, is for the future films. But one of the things I do wonder is whether they've finally cracked this script, and they finally got rid of this one rule of, they've just got. I get the feeling that they got to the point where they're like, look, let's just go for it and see what happens, because if they don't get Blade right, then there's actually quite a lot hanging on this, because they've now tied Blade to the Eternals, because there was that post-credit scene with Jon Snow, Kit Harington, and with the Bonnie.
Of course, I think of him as the boy from Warhorse, but that's me.
Yes, see, I think of him as Sebastian Stan 1.5.
No, he's Sebastian Stan 0.75, because he's so little. It's like like someone put Sebastian Stan in the wash and he wasn't sanforized.
I really like his casting as what's the name?
Dane.
Superman.
The Black Knight.
No. The Black Knight. That's it. The Black.
The guy who's Dane Dorrance or Dane Torrance or something like that.
I can't remember, but I think he's a really interesting. I wouldn't say he's a good actor, but I think he's got quite a good screen presence. So yeah. I think he's good for that.
Yeah. Why? So here's my thing: is that I understand why they don't want to do an R movie, because they're concerned about merchandising and toys, because that's really the huge profit center for these things.
Yeah.
But why Dane Whitman?
Yeah, Dane Whitman. That was his name.
Yeah. Sorry, and I read a bunch of those Avengers last year too, because I'm a masochist. But so if you're that concerned about your merchandising thing, then why do you choose to do a Blade movie? That would be my question in the meetings.
Fan demand.
Okay,
I don't know.
But you can ignore them too. It's not like your empire is going to crumble if you don't make a Blade movie.
Yeah. And actually, I think this was more of a Mahershala Ali thing, because he was. The story is that he literally went up to Kevin Feige at the Oscars and said, "I want to play Blade," and Kevin Feige was like, "Okay,"
yeah,
gave him the gig.
All right. Now, if you got that dude coming to you and saying, I want to play Blade, Mahershala Ali, and you go, okay, then that's what you're in for. I mean, he's not like some Instagram model. This is a serious fucking actor with honest to God talent and a reputation. So if you're going to hire the guy, make the movie.
Yeah.
So my question is, because we know like Kevin Feige was hands off on Phase 4. Do you think they were developing it while he was a bit hands off there, like he did with Michael Waldron for Loki and Doctor Strange 2? He's a bit more involved in that. But like, do you think now he's come back because he's like, oh, you guys screwed up Phase 4, so I want to really, so that's why we're getting a more R-rated, bloody Blade? Like he's getting back and throwing the punches?
I don't know. That's an interesting thought. I mean, it's somebody, because somebody's going to have to go in and duke it out with Disney consumer products because they're going to. I mean, the thing about the
Chapek's gone.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the original Blade is, remember, that wasn't a very expensive movie to make. That was it was almost was it New Line? It was almost an independent film, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. So they weren't like spending huge budgets on that stuff. I think I'm going to guess it was a $15-20 million movie at that time.
I think it's probably about that.
Yeah. So now they won't come do it. I mean, you could go out and shoot. You could shoot a great movie for $15-20 million now.
$45 million US
budget. Or
okay, so that was the budget. And then Blade 2 was only 55, and Blade Trinity was 65.
That's pretty high for that kind of movie. But they're not going to do that. They're going to a studio picture isn't going to roll out for under $100 million these days. No matter how you could do it, they're just not going to do it.
I mean, one of the reasons why they probably spent so much for that movie, especially the first one, was just Wesley Snipes' salary.
Yeah, he was hot then.
He was quite well known. Yeah, he was a hot property. And this was God knows where that buddy went.
And Rodney has a
Chris Christopherson doesn't come cheap.
No, that's true.
Back then he didn't.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question, Rodney.
Well, I mean,
I
do
think
we actually believe Marvel is going to be bloody and graphic? Feige tried to say Moon Knight was brutal prior to the show starting. That's very true.
Yeah, well, they got around that by not showing any of the brutal bits in that show. They were like, "It's a brutal show, but it happens off screen."
It was a brutal show, but we cut all those parts.
Yeah, it is true, but I think that I really do get the impression that they've done a lot of learning. I think from and also testing from Phase 4. I think Phase 4 was an odd kind of testing phase where they were trying to bring in these more brutal characters, like the Moon Knight in the comic books is pretty brutal, and they were trying to bring them in a way that they could kind of Marvelize it in a weird way, kind of make it more palatable for the MCU. But I think they all realize that if they want to do these characters properly, they've got to go the full, not what is it in America say, full 9 yards. And
if you're gonna do different genres, then you've got to really commit to that genre.
Yeah, you have to hit for 6, Edward.
Yeah, exactly. You have to hit it for 6 because it's just not going to work. I mean, I enjoyed parts of Moon Knight, but it really felt watered down. It felt like it was missing something, and
a character arc. Maybe,
yeah, one of those. But I also think one of the things that has shown people a lot of people what can be done in this genre is The Boys, and I really do think with the success of The Boys season 3, I think a lot of people in the industry have started realizing that there is a space for that kind of
Well, they realized that when Deadpool came out.
Well, right? I still think Deadpool was a bit. It still felt to me at least a bit like they were kind of reining it in a bit. Honestly, I think they could have gone a lot further than they did. And I actually think one of the problems with Deadpool, I know people are going to hate me for saying this, I think Ryan Reynolds is a bit of a problem because it's the Ryan Reynolds show. And if we're talking about Ryan Reynolds, Blade Trinity is a very good example of when Ryan Reynolds goes very wrong. in that movie.
Yeah, but Deadpool in the comics is the Deadpool show.
He's miscast. He's terribly miscast in Blade Trinity. For that,
he is.
I agree.
He's got a terrible beard.
But no, that's his wife. No, I don't dislike Ryan Reynolds, but to me, what you're saying and what I get out of it is that how much of that is too much. Like, are we going to like my kid and I are talking about, because we didn't see Deadpool in the theaters. I remember we went. I'll tell you another one of my long stories, so stop me. We went to Target to buy Ragnarok on DVD, and we had misjudged it, and it wasn't out yet. So we decided to buy Deadpool, which neither of us had seen, and we went home and watched it. And went, well, we like this a lot better than we thought we were going to. But at some point, he's going to wear thin, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he might do, but I think that's probably one of the reasons why they brought in the Molyneux sisters to kind of revamp that third Deadpool script.
Yeah, but how long has it been since Deadpool 2, though, right?
It's been a while, yes.
Yeah,
it's 2016, I think that came out, Deadpool 2.
We're not in danger of being oversaturated by Deadpool until what happens after Deadpool 3. But
we're in danger of being saturated by Ryan Reynolds with Welcome to Wrexham and Spirited and Free Guy, and it's the same character every time.
If you watch all those movies, then yeah.
Yeah,
it's the same.
So Shaun, we know you're in the entertainment industry, but please don't watch a limited number of movies and television shows.
It's the same director also as Free Guy and the Adam Project. It's Shaun Levi.
Yeah. It's from Stranger Things. Yeah.
Stranger Things, Nights at the Museum. He did as well. He did those movies as well. I mean, who knows? I think
it's all about Deadpool in the comics. It's all about Deadpool.
Yeah.
And and you can make jokes about Green Lantern. That's what it's there for. It's unique. It's breaking the fourth wall. So
it is, but I mean, and I really enjoyed.
Tried to do the same thing and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Now when She-Hulk works, it's not. To me, for when She-Hulk worked, it wasn't She-Hulk. It was the Tim Roth group therapy session with the porcupine was.
Yeah, that was.
I thought was genius.
Yeah. So I do wonder whether Deadpool 3 is going to open up a few doors though for the MCU. I do wonder that.
X-Men.
Yeah.
And as far as the Blade movie is concerned, I do wonder whether that they've had to completely rip up the manual on that one. And I also wonder whether the fact that Marvel is now or Disney's now kind of gone back to the way it was before, before the Chapek era, has actually changed some things as well. And I think you're right, James, when you were talking about Kevin Feige. I think it's inevitable that I think he definitely came in and tried to sort this mess out, because it was such a mess. Like the reports were saying that Mahershala Ali was just really frustrated with the project, wasn't happy with the way it was going. When there's a change of director, to me, there's always something wrong. Like that you can't. It's like happened with Thor. It was Thor: The Dark World.
Yep,
was the one that Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct.
Yeah. Thor, the second Thor.
It was the second one. It happened with Antman. It happened with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as well. Scott Derrickson left that, and Doctor Strange 2 was all right, considering that they had Sam Raimi come in, who's like the horror, the kind of god of horror. Could have been a lot better. Should have been a lot better.
Needed more Raimi.
Yeah. I agree 100% with that. It just I was horribly disappointed that Sam Raimi didn't take that and tuck the ball under his arm and run for a touchdown. That's American football, Edward.
Yeah.
And Canadian football as well.
Yeah, we just have to run longer.
Yeah. With a wider field.
Is it a really different size field?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Canadians, what does Bobby say? Canadians are her new catchphrase is relentless balls to the wall. Yeah.
Well, so we recruit
CFL is.
We recruit NFL players from the CFL because their cardio is all so good.
Just like hockey.
NHL recruits players from Russia who then come here and go, "Why are you punching me?"
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I suppose ultimately I'm interested to see what happens with this movie. I've also been told the Blade film is going to be pushed into Phase 6, which I wouldn't be surprised by, to be honest, at this point, because its release date is supposed to be 6th of September 2024. They haven't even started shooting it yet. So, I mean, they could get it out by then, but it'd be a push.
Yeah.
So I think it's 2025 would be the beginning of Phase 6. So then it means it might come out after Fantastic Four. Wait.
Somebody in the comments said Mahershala Ali is going to be 60 by the time they make it, and I mean,
that's true actually.
Yeah, but like this guy's got other shit to do. You know, it's not like nobody doesn't want him to work. You know, so how long are they going to hold him? And how long is he going to sit around and, you know, Timothy Dalton twiddle his thumbs waiting for them to decide what direction Bond's going in?
Well, it depends how much money he's getting to wait.
Does it depend on that though? Because it's not just that. It's starting to cap your career, because if nobody sees you doing something, then, you know, it's going to hurt in other ways too.
Yeah. And I wonder whether that might
side
be
projects or whatever.
I mean,
he can go and win a few Oscars.
Yeah, what's the timeline going to be? Because those movies take a damn long time to shoot.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Is it? But as an actor, it's a bit easier, to be honest, because he'll be shooting for 3 months. I think it was Michael Caine that was talking about, like, people were like, why don't you ever become a filmmaker, a film director? He's like, well, I look at it this way. Okay, as an actor, I only have to work for 3 months in the year. As a director, the movie, I'm on the movie from start to finish, which will take about 2 years. So within the time that a filmmaker has made one movie, I could make 6. It's like... there's a lot of that.
And also with the last few years of Michael Caine's career, it was if you're going to be a filmmaker, you have to actually stop and think about what you're doing. Where he was just like, there's a script, sure. I knew somebody who worked. He worked for Synergy. Mario Casar's company was coming, and they wanted to get Sean Connery for a movie. This is before League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I guess Michael Caine was the same way. Was because he called up the agent and said, "Look, we have this movie, and it's this and this." And the agent, whoa! You don't need to tell me about the movie. You don't need to tell me anything. Just send me the script. Clip a check for $15 million to the script. Write the start date on the front of the script. If Shaun wants to do it, he'll show up. If he doesn't want to do it, we'll send the script and the check back to you.
Yeah. It's Michael Caine talking about doing Jaws 3 was a bit like that. He's like, I read the script and it said open Bahamas. I said, yes, I'll do that.
If there's any actors out there, aspiring actors, Michael Caine always said, don't blink in a scene because they can never cut away from you.
That's your eyes, right? Your eyes.
Yeah.
So, you could get a lot by just going like that. There's that
I blink your bloody eyes
thing. Yeah. Edward, that's an excellent Michael Caine, by the way.
It's not very good.
Yeah, good thing you're good at accents with them. You criticize accents.
I can do English ones. That's about it. But the guy that's
do
very
Yorkshire
good at
next. Do Yorkshire next.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that because I think Dan Tig might be from Yorkshire, so he might get a bit offended. But there's someone called Rob Brydon who's a Welsh comedian that does a very good Michael Caine, and also Steve Coogan does a really good Michael Caine as well. Yeah, but I honestly. It's Mahershala Ali. I think he has I think he's attached as a producer on this as well, which is probably why he's so invested. But I'm pretty sure he won't want the film to flop or do badly because he's put a lot of time and effort into this, and it won't look good on his career if his first venture into. I mean, it's not his second venture into Marvel. Because he was in the Luke Cage series as Cottonmouth, where he was the best part of that series. Yeah. The minute he dies in that show, the show went downhill. But yeah, I'm very I'm hopeful that this is actually a good sign, that this is what we're being told about this, that actually means that it's being taken in the right direction. I really hope they don't balls it up, because let's be honest, the last couple of Marvel movies haven't been great. They've left
Feige's
a lot to
back
be desired.
with his goons and his snipers. I know we didn't plan to talk about this, but the snipers have to be out because the Antman script leaked. I don't want to hear anything about it. I didn't read anything about it.
No. But I want to tell you. I want to tell you how it leaked.
Please
so it was actually the translated what's it called? The translated
subtitles. The company.
The subtitles.
Really?
So I'm pretty sure it was the French and Italian subtitles that were leaked, or maybe there was a Filipino. Well, there was a European and like an Asian market leak.
You look so shocked, Shaun.
They aren't doing that in-house. Do they hire a service for that?
They hire services. Yeah.
What?
Actually, that was something that I was at one point going to do. I was going to translate from French into English to do English subtitles, and they outsource them.
It's probably a Disney thing.
We used to have in-house. We used to have in-house.
Yeah, but with streaming service now, it's probably because they're picking up so many properties for Disney Plus. They probably just hired one company or a couple companies to do subtitles, and that was the way they have it prepared for Disney Plus and everything else.
But you lose control, and you don't have those people on payroll, and it's wow.
So I think that's how it leaks.
And Edward, if you were going to do it, translators do not make a ton of money.
No, they don't. It was a very poorly paid job, and it's very difficult. And it wasn't something that I mean, again, it was coming out of university and had a politics and French degree. What are you going to do with that? But
run for mayor.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's. I mean, I remember being in Montreal and just trying to read the newspaper every day with my broken high school French. Like, I can't imagine trying to translate a movie. That's got to be tedious work.
I think it is, and the other thing is that it seems as though it was in bits, so they were trying to make sure that it made sense. And wait, my Siri's going mad. Apple. They're got Siri coming up going, "What do you want?" Oh, I'm not talking to you. Apparently it wasn't in chronological order, the leak. So they're trying to fit the movie together by little bits of translated dialogue they have.
They can probably trace back who had access to those parts then.
Maybe, yeah. But again, I mean, I'm not sure how accurate this leak is. I have no idea, but it's been all over the place. And if you read the article on small screen, I make it very there's a massive spoiler alert bit. So you can read the first couple of paragraphs. Nothing spoiled in there. Just give us the click. That'd be nice.
Please show us your digital love.
Yeah, exactly. And then click on the ads as well when you're not the bad ones that come up, the good ones. But yeah, that leaked as well. So it's been a bit of a headachy period for Marvel and Kevin Feige, and actually Feige's been talking. So I wanted to get your thoughts, Shaun and James, on what Kevin Feige had to say about the future of superhero movies. He was talking to Variety in a podcast, and he had a lot to say.
I think he's saying the right things, but it felt really rehearsed and really he'd sat down with the publicity department. That yes, people are asking him, how long will this trend last? How long can we keep on making superhero movies? And he said he's been asked that since Iron Man 1. How long will this fad last? And he's saying, well, there's all different. In the interview, he's saying there's all different kinds of stories to tell. So we have 80 years of deeply emotional stories to pull on, which I call bullshit on, because I've actually read Submariner and Human Torch stories from the 40s, and there isn't a lot of deep emotion in those. So I think you maybe have 30 years of deeply emotional stories spread out over the 80. And I agree with what he's saying, but it just felt sort of like he's going out and he's bailing water from a sinking ship, going, "No, it's great. We can still make it to Bermuda for Michael Caine."
what did you think about his Gone with the Wind analogy, where he's like, "Are we gonna stop making movies on books because Gone with the Wind came out?"
It's not a good analogy.
It's not the same, is it? Because books have been around for hundreds of years. Comic books have not really been around for the first comic book was probably written
in the 20s and 30s when they were reprinting newspaper strips, and then there were some originals, I think, in the 30s.
So. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to make movies of based on the very first comic book strips or comic strips ever.
But he's not. That's not the right question. The right question is not how long are we going to adapt novels. The right question is how many Civil War novels are we going to adapt?
Yeah.
That really is the question to ask from that metaphor he used. And I know this because I used to be a college professor, so I know this shit. But he's correct in that you can tell hundreds of Civil War stories. So he just sort of tortured the metaphor. But what he said that was right is you do have to tell different stories. Superhero is not a genre. You can tell different genre stories inside of that. And that's why when we're talking about Blade, maybe they're ready to do an R-rated movie, horror movie now.
But
I think there's a lot of genres. Sorry, go ahead, Edward.
No, you're right. There are a lot of genres that they could. What are you going to say, James? Go on, go.
Well, I just think there's a lot of genres that they haven't tapped yet, and some that they haven't really explored fully or done properly. But the question is, Feige tried to bring up some other people to take more creative control and helm a bit so he can go work on a super secret Star Wars film. How long is he going to do this and steer the ship? And how long, and will that time equate to these different genres, these different stories he wants to tell? Will they be good? Does he have enough time to do that?
Well, that's the same. That's like the same as the James Gunn question from last week. How long is James Gunn going to want to run a company, and when's he going to want to go make movies? Kevin Feige is now sort of like known as the mastermind producer. Maybe the guy wants to direct a movie. Maybe he's got a specific story he wants to tell. And is he going to be held down to being the David O. Selznick of superhero movies?
Yeah, but maybe he saw what happened with the Russo brothers, and they didn't do so well, and so maybe he doesn't want to jump ship too soon. Like maybe they'll be back for Secret Wars.
Well, he's he's probably got a mortgage, and
maybe like 100 mortgages.
But he gets paid quite a lot. I don't know if he needs a mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, he's right, but are they going to do it? It's like he's saying the right things, but all the stuff we've seen from Marvel in the past 2-3 years has been pretty dull.
But this is something that I do wonder a lot, actually, quite a lot about the future of the MCU. Is that I think Dan said it quite well. Marvel needs to evolve or die, and there's definitely something in there. There is an unwillingness. I get the impression from studio heads or executives behind the scenes that you probably don't really know much about, or people, as you were talking about, Shaun, people that want to about in the merchandising departments,
right?
That are more. And they have too much control over what's going on, and that will inevitably lead to the MCU's failure, I think, not necessarily superhero movies' failure, because I see something quite interesting in what's happening over at DC, because I get the impression that they feel they're kind of a bit free now. They're kind of released from their shackles of the DC EU, and they can go on and do different stories and explore different genres and make more like make superhero movies that explore different themes and genres, and not necessarily just R-rated ones, but can even. I've noticed that DC has, with their animated offerings, have been going even younger with the Teen Titans Go movies and stuff like that. So that. I get the impression that there's more experimentation going on over at DC, and there will be in the future. Whereas Marvel's now stuck in this rut where they're like, well, we need these movies to make money because we spend so much money making these movies.
Right.
That we need a high return on investment, and otherwise the future's not. It's not going to work. I think they're looking at it the wrong way around.
Yeah, or a return period. Well, I mean, something happened in the 90s that big movie studios, the marketing department sort of took over what was going to happen with movies. It wasn't, you didn't go in and pitch a movie and then the marketing department figured out how to sell it. The marketing department came to you and said, we can sell this movie, so make this movie. And that's how David Bonaventura became the head of production at Warner's. So, I mean, I think Marvel's got sort of that. They're sort of hamstrung by their own success. And what you're saying is right. They make these movies for so much money that the return has to be at a certain level, or they're going to say it isn't worth it. And that's where I think Gunn, what he said last week is that, well, you don't have to make, not every movie needs to cost $100 million or What was the production cost for for Endgame and Infinity War? It was almost $1 billion, wasn't it? For 500 million for the two of them together, I think.
Yeah.
But Danzig has it's about quantity. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And if you look at like 2013 to 2019, DC put out 6 films and Marvel put out 18 or something.
31 movies he said in the interview. They've done 31 Marvel movies since then. And
but in the span of like 6 years, DC only made 6 and Marvel made like 18. So they were already gearing up, but now with Disney Plus, it's like supremely oversaturated.
Yep. And those are varying quality. I mean, some of them are better than the next flick shows, but not by much, really.
I actually wonder whether those TV shows, the Marvel TV shows, have actually made things worse. Because they're being edited, and all the special effects and stuff are being done by basically the same people that are working on the movies. These people are now they're stretched so thin that we literally see mistakes now coming into these big tentpole Marvel movies. Like there were quite a few mistakes in Thor: Love and Thunder that I noticed. Like there was some weird editing mix-ups and even some voiceover stuff that didn't sound right, and that's because they're stretched way too thin. They've got these companies. I don't know how these companies are going to survive, because the turnover as far as personnel is concerned is huge. Right. And it's because they're just stressed. They're just stressed. And I think Disney especially has got to really look at the way they the way they make these films. I think that the only way forward is by making fewer films and making them on smaller budgets, because there's no way it can continue the way it's going now. Like, I know a lot of people that work in London that are they can't work in that industry anymore.
We're also getting the whole Star Wars thing with Marvel now too. It's not an event,
Right.
We got that dilemma where we just get the shows and it doesn't feel special.
Right. I just question, why, once again, what we were talking about with the translation, why don't they build an in-house special effects? Why don't they have all of that in-house and just pay people? I was reading a book last night about Ealing Studios, and they looked at the way American movies were made, and it was a factory, right? And you hired people, you paid them, they came in and worked 5-6 days a week to do that job, and you kept them there, and they moved up the ranks as you went along, and you built this whole, process in it. And instead it's everything's got to be contract work and jobbed out, and then we get to the last minute and we don't know how to do it, so then we're going to contract every kid who's got a tower in his mom's garage to do the final workup on our flying scenes.
They just go the Robert Rodriguez route and build his own visual effects studio.
Yeah, why not? Why not? And then
is that a union thing though?
Well, no. The union thing is they just don't want to pay. That's the union thing. Because a union, IATSE, you pay. I think it's 22.5 cents on each dollar you pay goes into fringe benefits. So it goes into paying the union health insurance plan and pension and stuff like that. But over the long run, what's the cost benefit analysis? Like, are you going to keep getting in a place where you don't have enough people to do your special effects, or are you going to have a special effects unit in house where you say, well, we can do this many movies, so let's do this many movies and guarantee our profit? Danzig's right. It's like, do quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And
they need to pay them better. The VFX artists, they definitely do.
That egg with the big screens and the Unreal Engine that they use for Mandalorian and stuff.
That's my head. The egg that's just my head.
It's the
that's ILM, right? That's not in-house at Disney, but is it on the Disney lot?
No, ILM. No, ILM.
No. I mean what's it called? The Void. Let me look it up.
No, it's called the thing that all the Disney shows and now movies they use it. I can't remember what it's called. It is ILM.
It's Stagecraft. Yeah, but it seems like it would be like so. It's on the ILM lot, right? They wouldn't be shooting that on the Disney lot.
The volume. That's what it's called.
The volume.
Yeah, it's the volume.
The Disney lot doesn't have a lot of space for shooting, really.
But I do wonder whether did Disney, like, an interesting way to look at it is what's happened with Apple recently. And why are you laughing, James? Just giggling.
Like 12 people just jumped in the chat and said the volume. Pay attention to the chat, you assholes.
But what Apple did, which was very interesting recently, was they've started developing their own microchips. And they're doing that all in the house, so they no longer have to work with Intel. And one of the companies that a lot of people have said are very interested in buying Disney is Apple. And that would probably be one of the very first things that a company like Apple would want to do, would be to just stop outsourcing everything and keep everything in-house. And one of the very first things they'd probably do is they probably would be like, we are going to start our own VFX studio. They're just going to work on Disney movies. They're all going to make these movies on Apple computers. I bet you that's one of the things that they're talking about a lot, because we all know that Apple wants a piece of that pie, and Disney seems like the most obvious company for them to buy. They haven't really bought
Apple computers with Intel chips.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
they're all on Apple Silicon now.
No, I know, but they won't use Apple computers.
Pixar was like bringing things up, for Apple, and then they lost the high ground with that. And now there's like a billion different sort of like animation things, and you can do it on IBM. So, and gaming is the same way, and there's a lot of crossover between gaming and animated and film. So, just start your own studio and pay for it, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I do wonder whether that might be what happens. Danzig says, "Or buy a successful VFX house and expand it like Weta." That could be something that they might be looking into doing. I think that'd be quite a sensible thing to do. But again, I'm not sure what Disney's financials are like after the JPEG era. I think they, I'm sure they're fine. But Star Wars hasn't been doing as well as they hoped it would. And the Marvel movies have been doing pretty well, like Spider-Man. But the thing is, Spider-Man: No Way Home, most of that money went to Sony. So
right,
it was, again, I think Black Panther: Wakanda Forever did all right. They all did all right. There was no like massive hits. The massive hit was No Way Home.
Right, Avatar.
Avatar did well for them recently.
But how much did it cost?
How much did James Cameron get?
Yeah, exactly. That's what. Yeah, you forget about that. The ridiculous deal he has on those Avatar films.
Well, and they spend so much to make it. Like, it doesn't make it's like Superman Returns. Superman Returns turned a profit of $2 million on an investment of $203 million. That's great financial sense.
And Joker was the same sort of thing. Ended up that movie alone probably made more than any of the Marvel films we're talking about. And I know I talk about them probably every week, but Blumhouse Productions is is a studio that I love. Literally made Megan, or M3gan, as it's probably called. I don't know. That movie was made for $12 million. It ended up making its money back in its opening weekend.
But horror is easy to make on low budget.
Okay, we're saying that And then yet we're saying that Marvel won't make a horror Blade movie. And I'm like,
they could go the original Blade route. Yeah, no, I agree with it. They could go with the original Blade route with the small budget, and it would be great.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that's what they do. I
want to see a film. You know, Eternals came close with how it looked and how it was shot, but it still had Marvel.
That was bogged down by all that Marvel crap, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But if we got a film like the original Blade, you know, like if they shot on film, I'd be impressed. That would be great.
I didn't like Eternals, but I was impressed that they tried it. You know,
yeah.
So I think, and I just would hate to see them stop experimenting like that. Like, let's just find a really great filmmaker, hand them a property that's not going to hurt us that much, and let them run with it.
Kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
It's interesting that before the Eternals came out, because they dropped the didn't they, like Facebook. But it's funny how before that movie was released, everyone was going, all the buzz was like, oh, Marvel, inside Marvel, they all think this is going to be their Oscar nominated movie. They're all getting very excited. They've got Chloe Zhao, you know, the woman that she won the Oscar for her film. I'm blanking on the name now. Nomadland. And
I loved Nomadland too.
Nomadland was very good.
Yeah.
The Eternals, I actually thought it was okay. A bit long, a bit boring in the middle, a bit waffly, but it wasn't the movie that I was expecting. And I think that was one of the problems. A lot of people weren't really expecting that sort of film. They wanted something. In the end, it was kind of bogged down by the Marvel sheen of it all. But then the nominations for the Oscars were released today, and Marvel ended up getting its first major Oscar nomination, like in the supposed major categories. They got Angela Bassett was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which I was like, when I saw that, I was like, what? I was like, okay, Bassett she's good in it, but
Angela Bassett's like Michael Keaton. Like, every time they show up on the set, you should just hand him an award.
Yeah,
you know.
and she's only been nominated twice. This is her second nomination.
Well, the Academy Awards are not really an arts organization. It's a promotional organization for film. So
yeah,
you know, the stuff I saw today is like, how could Tom Cruise get nominated for Top Gun? Well, because somebody spent a fuck ton of money to advertise it. That's how it could happen.
Well, Top Gun, he didn't get nominated for Best Actor. Got nominated for Best Picture.
Didn't he get? I thought he got a nomination for Best Actor.
No, he didn't.
No, well,
no,
then I'm wrong.
No. He got Best because he's a producer on the film. So, to be honest, I think Top Gun Maverick deserves that nomination. I think that's a bloody incredible film. But just how they shot that movie is just insane. But the big one was, well, for Marvel was the fact that Angela Black Panther: Wakanda Forever got quite a few nominations. Yes, and Brenda Fraser was nominated for Best Actor for The Whale. So a lot of people excited about that. It was a good day for the Irish because is it the Banshees of Inisherin?
Yeah.
Got a lot of nominations. Colin Farrell got a nomination for that, so I'm looking forward. I mean, again, the Oscars for me is a bit like, I don't really care anymore. What was funny though was today I got an email from bookies being like, will you write this up? And it's like the odds on another slap happening at this year's Oscars. And it's like, maybe. It'd be quite funny, but I don't think it's going to happen again. Will Smith won't be in the building.
Yeah.
So everyone's safe.
Okay, you want to switch gears here?
Yep. So the next thing we've got to talk about is DC. So move on to DC.
Are they still around?
Apparently. Well, this is a bit of an opportunity, Shaun, for you to talk about your background.
Well, we just want to who is going to play Superman? And you were there on the WB lot when they were going through this dilemma.
Which, for the movies or for the cartoon show?
For the movies. I think you mentioned something about like Clint Eastwood, or was that
no?
That was Batman.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood, and there was a point when
and Paul Newman.
There was a Batman Beyond feature. I'm sorry, I'm really bugged by my hat being uneven. There was a Batman Beyond movie being talked about, and they had gone out to Clint Eastwood and Paul Newman to play old Bruce Wayne. And I don't think it even got to the point to where anything other than like, would you be interested in doing this? Thank you, Dan. It is a fetching poster behind me, isn't it?
We'll get there. Yeah.
I heard that Newman had been interested because someone admitted he was in a butcher shop in Connecticut, and someone had said, "I hear you're playing Bruce Wayne," and he said, "What?" And then, once he found out about it, he was kind of like, "That could be interesting." And the meeting that I was at, everybody was all about Clint Eastwood playing old Bruce Wayne, and I was the one going, I love Clint Eastwood, but if we can get Paul Newman, shouldn't we get Paul Newman? Because he's the greatest actor of his generation. Just saying. That was what I know. Superman, the only I heard that, and these are things I heard, so I wasn't actually present at these, but I heard that after they showed the tests of Nicolas Cage in the costume, that somebody in one of the offices said, "Are we sure Christopher Reeve's never going to walk again?"
Oh man, I would have loved to have seen those tests.
And then, well, they're online.
Are they online?
Yeah.
Are they
online? There's costume.
Them.
Yeah, there's costume tests online. Yeah,
I've seen pictures of him in the costume, but I haven't seen him acting.
They're sort of wrong-headed, but they're not as awful as you would think. But they're completely, for Superman, they're completely wrong-headed. And I also heard that there was a test floating around that Brendan Fraser did around the time he did, I think, Back in Action. And that part of the deal was that if he came in for Back in Action, then he would be on the short list for Superman. And I thought at that point that would have been good. And somebody said that they saw a costume test for him. Once again, this is all just hearsay. And they said he looked exactly like the Fleischer Superman, which I was like, I'm there for that.
Man, I gotta hunt those down. Hopefully they've seen the light of day. It's the first we've heard of it.
Yeah, I know at one point they had talked to Ray Liotta, I heard, and Eric McCormick. And I'll probably think of some other names of people that have been talked to about it. I mean, you gotta understand that there was a long period where there were Superman movies just constantly in development. I mean, I had a lunch one day and they told somebody on the lot, and they told me that they were in for $8 million on scripts for Superman.
Wow.
Just scripts. So there have been a lot of people attached and unattached as time went on.
Yeah, 200,000 of that went to Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that script.
So when you were there, WB had a Superman problem, right?
They had said, I mean, the person I had lunch with said, I don't know why they just don't give it to you guys. And I'm like, yeah, why? Because please, we'd be happy to take a shot at a live action Superman.
Do you think they still have that problem? Or
yeah, I think it's
worse.
We talked about it a little bit last week, about the perception of Superman. And I think Gaiman had it right when he said Superman doesn't need to be relevant. He needs to be inspiring. I mean, Superman is trying to make him relevant is a foolish journey. Trying to make him somebody who's something special, that's the way to do that character, I think. I mean, I still see DC Comics. I've read a bunch of, not a bunch, but I've read a couple of Superman comics recently, and like Wade seems to understand it, but I don't think anybody else does. It's, he's traditional middle American values, equal rights for everybody, fair play, all that stuff, stuck in a big city. And by the way, he can throw cars. But he's constantly sort of tripped up by his own goodness. People can take advantage of him for that because he does want so badly to do the right thing all the time. And that was actually one of the things I thought the new show on the CW dealt with pretty well for a while. I got frustrated with it, but what I really liked was the relationship between Clark and Lois, and the fact that Superman is not Kal-El. Superman is Clark Kent. He's raised in in middle America with what we think of the best of American values being, and he is going to try really hard to do that.
Yeah, and he's a very naive character.
Yeah, he's really smart, but he's sort of wants to see the best in everybody.
Yeah,
they need to utilize that more, I think, moving forward.
I reread For the Man Who Has Everything last week. The Alan Moore story, where do you know that story, Edward?
No, I don't.
It's a Superman annual from the 80s, and the thing is that Wonder Woman and Batman come to the fortress to give Superman his birthday gift, and they find him with this plant attached to him, sort of frozen. And Mongol has shown up with this plant that will attach to any being and will make them think they're in their fondest desire. And his fondest desire is that Krypton had never exploded and that he had gotten to grow up and live a normal life. And it starts to break down because he somehow subconsciously he realizes what's going on. But the great thing about it is that when they finally get that thing off of him, you've got a great excuse for him to be really angry, and a bad guy like Mongol who he can just tear into without anything. And you finally push him to the point to where you don't want to get in this guy's way. And when he wakes up and sees Mongol, the first thing he says is "burn," and the heat vision shoots out.
You got to read that. You guys did an episode on that, right, Shaun?
Yeah, we adapted it in JLU. Yeah,
it was great. It was great. So that would be a nice story to make in live action, but that would probably have to be like second or third film.
Yeah, and I don't think if I were to try and do a Superman movie now, I think I would get kicked out of the room, because my suggestion would be, let's not do his greatest adventure ever. Let's do how this guy gets through a day, and there's lots of little subplots of the things he does through the day, and there's still like lots of room for action and lots of room for romance. But this is a guy who just wants to do good, and at the end of the day, he wants to fix a dam, save a plane, repel an alien invasion, and
put an iceberg in a volcano.
Yeah, and take Lois out for a burger at the end of the day. I think,
and somehow write an article.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the biggest problem to me is, how do you deal with him being a reporter anymore? Because newspapers are dying. Do you turn him into a blogger? That seems
you just have him be laid off in like the first 10 minutes of the movie.
that's what they did in that CW series. The first episode, he's laid off, and Lois says, "Aren't you upset?" And he goes, "No, you make a lot of money, and I've got stuff to do."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm not going to be bored."
His newspaper.
So
who do you guys see that could play Superman? I really don't have an answer for this. I can't really think of anyone that would. I think Danzig's right. He says unknown. You don't need a name. Superman is a star-making role. Cast a wide net. Test lots of actors.
My dream would have always been John Hamm in a period Superman movie that takes place in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, John Hamm. I mean, John Hamm has that look. He would have made a very good Bruce Wayne as well, John Hamm. Yeah. He's got the right look. But honestly, I don't know. I think it's not. You don't cast a name as Superman, really. It is Danzig's right. It's a role that turns someone into a star. It's not a role that's meant for a star to play.
Yeah.
And the way it's going. No, I think the way it's going at the moment is that's probably what they're going to do. Because I think I actually get the feeling this is going to be. James Gunn's Superman film will be quite small in scale, but by the sounds of it, which I like the sound of that. I think it's going to be it is going to be refreshing, and it'll be a character piece really, rather than a great big action film. There will be action scenes in it, but I think it'll be more thoughtful.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to go after that character. I mean, look at the Donner movie. I mean, Superman doesn't show up until more than halfway through it, and nobody hate. Well, there are people who hate that movie, but they're wrong.
Yeah, and Dan's right. The same logic applies to the next Bond. Although I do think Aaron Taylor Johnson's got that in the bag. The funny thing is, he's not that well known, which I'm quite surprised by. He's like, people don't really know who he is. They're like, oh yeah, the guy that played Kick-Ass. Yeah, but it's like he's He's so good. I hope he gets the role. I love that guy.
He was great in Bullet Train.
He is really good in Bullet Train.
I still say Idris Elba. I don't care how old he is. Idris Elba.
Too old.
Bond.
No,
old. He's not. He's
He is.
It's
one
like,
movie of him.
It's like Tulsa King. Like the one problem I don't have with Tulsa King is that the 75-year-old Sylvester Stallone can still kick people's ass.
He still
he
owns it.
Yeah, I have other problems with that show, but that's not it. I mean, I believe that people would give Idris Elba a wide berth.
Oh yeah, they would. Yeah, definitely.
But studios like First Ranger Battalion says go with young Superman, though no idea how that plays in DC plans. Well, that's what James Gunn has publicly stated. He wants a younger Superman, but they're not going to do an origin story. It's the same thing with Bond because they want that they want to lock that actor in for a bunch of movies.
Right.
So
right.
Like
it's more of a business decision than a creative decision at that point.
Yeah. Exactly.
If they don't set the next Bond movies in the 1960s, I'll be really upset.
Or the 50s, yeah.
Or
that's
the 50s,
a period Bond when
like after the Second World War.
When Russia was the bad guy, not like now.
Not like now, yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Right, was that everything on the docket? I think we went through
Lobo.
everything, didn't we? Lobo.
Oh, Lobo.
I almost forgot about Jason Momoa. How can I forget about Jason bloody Momoa? Yeah, so apparently he's going to be playing Lobo. So he kind of he's been teasing this for such a long time. I think we've talked about it briefly before. I was wondering, do you think, Shaun, there's a possibility of Jason Momoa staying on as Aquaman and playing Lobo as well at the same time?
Well, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, I guess because Lobo is going to be in so much makeup that it could make sense.
And a complete different character too. Like be super gruff and saying frag all the time, and and chains and leather jacket and not standing between two typhoons drinking a bottle of whiskey. I think pull it off.
Isn't it? Spread the wealth though. Don't put all your eggs in one Momoa basket.
Well, he's got to say that he'll always be Aquaman until the movie comes out. Like he's not going to say this is my last run as Aquaman, and then because everyone's like, well, what's the point of watching the movie? They're already saying that about the new movies coming out, anyways.
That's a really good point. That could be why they're saying that. No, we're behind Ezra Miller 100%. We've paid his bail, and
he's not the villain in the Flash. It's not Miller.
But yeah, that's why I think Momoa is saying that, because they want people to go see the movie, and it's like, I'm still Aquaman, I'll always be Aquaman, but like maybe he'll show up as a cameo down the road. But I don't know. I think the Flash is going to set stuff up.
Yeah. And maybe Lobo's not going to be connected straight to the DCU. Maybe he's going to be his own thing for a while.
Yeah,
which is another thing that they can do. They can just have these standalone movies,
and they could make it R-rated, and could hire everybody that's been fired off Blade to do
it.
There's Lobo show up in Peacemaker season 2.
That'd be great. Like if I were if I were in Gunn shoes, I'd be calling everyone that left before creative differences and said, "So what would you like? How do you feel about Challengers of the Unknown?"
Oh my God.
Have you ever heard of the Sea Devils?
I really hope that's what he does. Like, imagine if he gets Edgar Wright to finally direct a superhero movie like that's not Scott Pilgrim. But it's that would be brilliant if he does that. Gets everyone that left Marvel for creative differences. Scott Derrickson. Yeah, you want to do a horror movie, like a proper horror, like
you think they had problems at Marvel, they'd have so much problems at DC.
Do you reckon?
I think so. I think so. With like this, well, because I think like Zaslav on the board, but I think they would be more cautious than Marvel at this point, because they're trying to save so much money and they've gone through so much drama and baggage. Like they don't want to leave anything to chance.
I think there'll be a honeymoon period where they'll let Gunn have his head and do what he wants to do. But as soon as knowing the culture at Warner's, unless it's changed a good deal, which it could have. I mean, I've been gone for a while. People are going to be pulling to keep their little power thing. So as soon as, something doesn't do great, they'll start using that as an advantage to try and, close him down and do what they did to Tim Burton. and Schumacher.
Yeah, probably. That's the you can never trust Warner Brothers. That's the problem. Yeah. They're a bit tricky.
Give Edgar Wright the Atom.
That would be great.
That would be funny as well. That would be very funny.
Give him Adam Strange. Give him Space Cabbie.
There you go.
You know.
People in the comments are saying, Danzig says, I'm not just sure who's asking for a Lobo film. Ranger Battalion says he agrees. And then Bobby says Momoa would make a demand for a Lobo. I don't know. I think once the teaser trailer came out, like, it would be huge. Like, the character is great. He's unique. He's got a space motorcycle, for Crom's sake. Like, come on. It's going to be great. Like, that will do well at the box office, I think.
You know why they put him into Superman the Animated Series, right?
Why?
Because that was before I was on Superman. I was on Animaniacs, but they put Lobo in because it was the only person they could come up with that they thought Superman could have a decent fight with, and that nobody would feel bad about it because he was such a jerk that nobody would mind if Superman just beat the crap out of him.
Is he technically? Is he an anti-hero? Lobo is kind of.
Yeah, he was introduced as a villain in Omega Men, and I mean he killed everyone on his home planet so that he could be unique.
He could be number one, the main man.
Yeah, that's actually
his backstory.
Yeah.
Oh my God, who came up with that?
Keith Giffen.
Yeah. Lobo the bounty hunter. Yeah.
He's a bounty hunter, isn't he? I know very little about the little I know about the character comes from his. He's got a few like scenes in the Injustice comic book series. He's in that a bit, and that's all I know him from.
It was really good.
Just like Jason Momoa. Yeah, he is good in that. He has a whole thing with Harley Quinn in that, which is quite interesting. But he was an interesting character in that. I don't know who's. I don't think anyone's asking for anything in particular when it comes to these comic book movies. I think in the end, Jason Momoa is actually one of the names, one of the very rare names actually that could still kind of garner interest. Although his Apple TV show was pretty poor.
But they got 2 or 3 seasons out of it, didn't they?
They got 3 seasons out of it in the end. Yeah, I don't know how. I really don't know how. But he seems to be one of the actors that people really gravitate towards.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I don't dislike him, but I don't understand like the sort of like deep love people have for him. Mostly because everything he was in up until Aquaman and Game of Thrones bombed, right? And in Game of Thrones, he had like 2 lines, and it was in Dothraki.
Because it's his online personality that really gets it and gets his stance.
I saw some Canadian film that he did in the early 2000s. It was a science fiction film. I can't even remember the name of it, but he was actually not bad in it. But it was obvious that was before he had found the weight room.
Was it Farscape?
Science fiction picture?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I think it was. The show was Farscape? No,
it wasn't a show. It was a Canadian feature film.
It might have been. I know what picture you're talking about.
He was in Conan the Barbarian, wasn't he? He was that was.
Yeah, unfortunately, I still haven't seen that. I refuse to watch it.
Yeah, you have a life is too short for Conan the Barbarian or John Carter.
He was in Bullet to the Head with Stallone.
Yes, he was.
I didn't know that.
He looks very different in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
He grew a beard after that. He had no beard. He also had no beard in Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, Stargate Atlantis. Everyone should know that. It was Ronan Dex.
Yeah, I know that. But this was, what the heck was this movie called?
I'm looking.
I'm looking it up now.
I don't see it.
Yeah, he was in Baywatch. Was he in the movie Baywatch?
No,
the
show.
With, The Rock, the show. He was in the show.
Yeah.
God,
that's right. He was. Yeah, he played a kid.
Debug. I think it was Debug. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Debug.
6 young computer hackers sent to work on a derelict spaceship are forced to match wits with a vengeful artificial intelligence that would kill to be human. We should watch that trailer. Let me bring it up.
Wow, that is a look. Oh God. Anyway,
what about the Marvel rumors that Momoa is circling a big part at Marvel?
Was that giant freaking robot that wrote that? I don't know anymore.
I saw a couple places online, and all I could think of is, oh God, don't let him play Ben Grimm, please.
Oh, that was what. Yeah, I remember. It was giant freaking robot that said that he's in talks with Marvel. I don't believe that for a second.
Good.
I don't believe. I mean, I probably write it up, but again, if I wrote it up, it would have been very like, I'm not so sure about this. The problem with giant freaking robot is they post so much stuff like that like you kind of think, well, any of it can be true,
yeah,
and all of it can be not true.
Especially after Momoa's social media video coming out of the DC lot and being so excited and thanking Gunn and Safran and Zaslav and stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely playing Lobo. There's no. He's also said he's a massive fan of the character multiple times. So,
and it's not my favorite character, but I think he's a good choice for it. And he's not my favorite actor. I don't think he's really. He's trying though. I mean that Slumberland thing he did. The dude's trying to do different stuff. So go with God.
Yeah.
Put him and Batista in a movie together.
They were in that TV series together. Isn't Batista in the Apple show? Isn't he in Scene?
Is he in C?
I never watched it.
So. I don't think he's in C. I didn't see him in C.
I thought he was the opposite in it.
Maybe. I can't remember. That was a show that I had on the background when I first subscribed to Apple TV Plus, and then I was like,
Ido Voss. Dave Batista played Ido Voss.
Yep.
Interesting.
But Batista's now, if I could, wow, I'm just sort of fading into darkness here.
Yeah, you are. You're being embarrassed by the Twiknight.
But Batista, I think, is a really good actor. I'd like to see him try Lobo or something like that. I actually think he's really good. And they asked him why he wasn't going to do play Drax anymore. He said, "I thought I'd try acting."
I think he's too subtle for Lobo, though. I think Jason Momoa, he looks like Lobo, and I think he has kind of goofiness that could be cheesy, but not too over the top to play Lobo. I think Batista would have to play someone like Mongol or something.
Oh yeah, he would be a great Mongol.
Mm-hmm.
We had Eric Roberts played Mongol for us.
Yeah, that's great.
I think Batista's done with comic book movies. I think he's kind of like he's going to play a bigger part in Dune Part 2. That's going to be interesting to watch. I'm pretty sure he's going to want to work with Denis Villeneuve again. He seems to really enjoy working with him. So whatever project he does next, because I think Dune Part 2 is going to be I think you might want to make other Dune movies after that. I don't know if Warner Brothers will foot the bill for it, though. They're really expensive movies to make. And he's someone that seems to be more interested in the craft of acting and want to work with interesting directors like Rian Johnson and Denis Villeneuve and people like that. So I think he's done with the whole comic book schlock. He only really did it as a favor to Gunn, I think, as well. He's like a very good friends with James Gunn. If James Gunn's like, come over and do this with me at DC, he probably will. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what he can do outside of the comic book movie genre.
I am too.
He's already proven that he's good.
I've been blown away by how committed. I mean, Drax is a silly part, but he's just completely committed to it, and everything else I've seen him do, even playing that shitty character in Spectre, right?
Yeah, he was in Spectre. Yeah. Oh, here we go. This is the trailer.
I just want to show you this one part.
Oh my god. It looks like a really bad music video. Like, it looks like a music video they made at the beginning of the 2000s, like an NSYNC one or something.
Yeah, but not as good. It's a 98 degrees video, not an NSYNC. Color me bad.
Yeah, I wonder what the direction was for that, for his face there. It's like, I want you to show absolutely no emotion in this scene.
Well, I think he's playing a hologram most of the movie.
He's got a suit. He's got a suit left over from Jerry Anderson's UFO series.
Oh my God, he looks terrible.
Like he's gonna go to the moon with the ladies wearing the fishnet clothes.
Yeah, that's not a good look. It is a Jamiroquai video. That's exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is. He needs a hat. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is it Cosmic Girl? That was a music video a bit like that, where he's just in a broom. Oh, I love Jamiroquai.
Yeah,
I've been listening to them recently as well. Yeah.
So any news on Twiknight, Shaun? We haven't updated recently.
He's gone into complete darkness.
Yes, but I'm keeping it very secret. No, we got accepted to one festival, the Indie Fest. Nice. We're out to a whole bunch of other festivals. I talked to someone a couple weeks ago about pitching it as a TV series. So I've been working on the script for a pilot script for it, and I'm working on that with Tom Mason. I don't know if you know him, but he was one of the founders of Malibu Comics, and he's written for Malcolm in the Middle and a bunch of other shows, and been a good friend of mine for a long time. So that's what's going on right now. That's been my concentration with it. I mean, I've submitted to a bunch of like A-line festivals that can go out, and I'm sorry, I'm just fascinated by how I'm just getting increasingly darker, and I don't know if I should relight the room, if I should get a ring light in front of me, or if I really like this. So I'm because I look like James now.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go to A-list festivals where people in the industry will see it. I'm not just going to shoot it out to festivals just to get it into festivals. I think that's a zero-sum game. And then depending on what goes on with that next year, I'm thinking about doing a comic book convention tour with the short film, and maybe selling some merchandise, and seeing what else I can do. Like we have I got some Twiknight t-shirts made, and I've got
nice.
I've got Twiknight pins, and
that looks great.
Stuff like that. So just that's, the point of the movie is to try and help people take me seriously with live action, and allow me to direct things, as opposed to just like, you do those cute cartoon things.
I've got I don't have the trailer ready, but I do have that teaser. You want to watch the teaser?
Yeah. Which one? Your favorite. Do your favorite. Yes.
Twiknight? Well, the name just came to me. I was going to be out mostly at night, and I wanted to be a night, night with a K. And night just sounded like something your mom says to you when she puts you to bed.
That's a very good line.
The only feedback I've gotten from there are a couple of festivals that have rejected it, and the feedback I get from both of them is that this isn't quite right for us, but we really like the lead actor. And I want to write him and go, the lead actor was there because he works cheap.
Yeah.
So next week we'll play the full trailer. If you want to see it before, you can go to twiknight.com, or you can go to the YouTube channel, or any social media for Twiknight.
It's on my social media. I repost it every week.
Yeah.
I hope we don't get a copyright strike for using that video.
Oh no.
Give us one. First Ranger Battalion says, give us one sentence on it. So imagine Batman lost a personal injury suit, and had to start working out of a small suburban house and driving an old Mustang.
There you go.
That's the pitch on the poster is how do you fight your endless war against crime when you're broke? Thanks, Dan.
There we go. I think so. We got through everything. Wow, we did everything on the docket. That's amazing, and we did it
on time too.
On time, just on time, just. Well, thank you so much, Shaun.
Did you guys hear the people putting the new floor in the kitchen while we were doing this?
No. It's perfect. Yeah. So thank you so much, Shaun, for joining us again. Lovely having you on as usual.
I enjoy this. This is one of my favorite parts of the week. And no, it is. And I work from the house, and I get to see how I look in different lights as the sun goes down.
Thank you so much, and we'll do this again next week. Same place, same time. Thank you, James, as usual, for doing the production. And if you want to check out,
my pleasure.
If you want to check out anything to do with Twiknight, Shaun, where can they find you? Or Twiknight?
www.twiknight.com.
Brilliant. And it's Small Screen Co. for everything small screen related. And we'll see you the same time, same place next week. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Remember, wherever you go, there you are.